Hi, this is Geshe Michael Roach, and I'm sitting with Connie O'Brien, the Executive Director of the Yoga Studies Institute. And the YSI program sort of completes the whole purpose of all our worldview organizations, the 11 organizations. They deal with improving your mind, improving your heart, improving your meditation, improving your business, improving many parts of your life. And then YSI is really trying to integrate your physical health with your mental health and your outlook on life completely. And how did we start YSI? It's a funny story. We were going to do a 3-year retreat. We decided to do a 3-year retreat. And we actually were in Mongolia, and we bought some Mongolian yurts. And these are, 12 feet across. And we thought 4 meters. And then we thought, well, we're going to be stuck inside these yurts for 1,000 days. And we better have some kind of exercise we can do. So you can't just sit there all day. You're going to get sick. And so we decided there was an Indian dance teacher, a lady teaching Indian dance in New York at the time. And we had gone to some of her classes, and we liked it. And so we said, well, let's learn more Indian dance before we go into retreat. And I remember we went to her where she was teaching, and we said, can you prepare us for 3-year retreat? She said, I'm leaving the country tomorrow. I was like, what? I said, yeah, I'm going back to India. We're like, oh, but we wanted to learn Indian dance so we could get some exercise during 3-year retreat. And she said, well, I have a suggestion. Why don't you guys try yoga? And yoga was not popular at that time. In fact, there was only one studio in New York City at that time. And they were in a clothing store. Mm-hmm. And so at night, after the store closed at 5, they would move all the racks of clothes to the side. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, people would do yoga. And the teachers, David Life and Sharon Gannon, they had studied with a great yoga teacher in India. And people were just getting interested in yoga. So we went there, and we took a class with them and with Ruth Lauer, their main assistant. And it was wonderful, and it was a great class. And so we decided, okay, let's try yoga. Let's learn yoga. Mm-hmm. And then we could take it into 3-year retreat. So we worked for, close to a year on learning yoga from these really 2 of the greatest teachers in the world. So we were very lucky, 3 of the greatest teachers in the world. And we were lucky to have them. And they would talk a lot about Yoga Sutra. And in fact, Ruth's teacher would sing the Yoga Sutra and teach it to her. Nice. And so we got interested in Yoga Sutra, and we were like, boy, we'd like to learn more about the Yoga Sutra. And then a strange thing happened, okay? We're about to go into 1,000 days of deep retreat, and we were having meetings. There were 5 different people in retreat in their own cabins. And then we were thinking, we had a big meeting. And I don't remember how the idea came up, but we said, what if we said, it looks like yoga's gonna be popular. It looks like yoga's gonna be really popular. And I don't know how we decided that, because there was only one yoga studio in New York. Now there's, hundreds and hundreds of yoga studios, thousands in this country. And I don't know how we decided, but we just said, yoga's gonna be popular. So let's learn the Yoga Sutra during retreat. And in fact, some of us decided to memorize it and study it deeply. So we got all these references. We went to classes by great teachers about Yoga Sutra. And we took the Yoga Sutra into retreat with us. And we memorized it. We recited it every morning. And we memorized the Sanskrit. Then we translated it into Tibetan so that we could understand it in the context of thousands of other books. And we worked really hard on it, you know. And then when we finished retreat, 1,000 days later, we had memorized all of the Yoga Sutra. We had memorized most of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is longer and more difficult. And we had studied them deeply. And we said, how do we share this with people? You know, how are we going to share what we've learned, not just the book, but 1,000 days of hard yoga practice? You know, how are we going to share that with people? And two things happened. I think the first thing, we said, well, there are people teaching Yoga Sutra in the United States. And they're in different yoga centers around the country. And they've been talking about it. Let's learn what they say. And we bought all the books about Yoga Sutra. And we had a weekend seminar, the whole weekend in Tucson. We rented a basketball stadium. We had a couple hundred people there. We spread all the Yoga Sutras on the floor. And we studied them. And we discussed how to share this wisdom, which we thought was very valuable, with other people. So we kind of had a teacher training there. And then we said, well, how do we go to all these yoga studios? And we had a fun idea, you know, according to the ancient Indian wisdom, the universe evolved in a circle from the left, counterclockwise, okay? Mm-hmm. And recently, by the way, I read that the basic spin on an electron is to the left. It's interesting. So, or something. So we made this grand plan that we would get in some old cars because we didn't have any money.
So cool.
And we would drive around the whole United States to the left, you know, counterclockwise. And we would visit any yoga studio that was interested in the Yoga Sutra or was teaching the Yoga Sutra. And we would just, you know, share what we had learned, you know. Mm-hmm. And so the day came and we finished the 3-year retreat. And we got into these old cars, which we didn't have any money. And we gave all the talks for free.
Yeah.
And we started from Arizona to Texas, Texas to Florida, Florida up the East Coast to New York, New York across the Midwest, up to Washington and Oregon, then down the West Coast, and then we did a big circle to the left around the United States. And oh my gosh, it was a terribly difficult tour. We didn't have money for food. The cars were breaking down all the time. I remember a motel room in Texas. It was about 18 inches from the highway.
Oh.
And all these trucks were coming by, and we were trying to sleep, and it was such a hard trip, but we learned what was being taught in the yoga studios, and we were shocked. We were just shocked because people knew about the word Yoga Sutra, and maybe they had read a few verses of it, but their idea about it was completely wrong. And mostly they didn't study it at all. And you know, the tradition that we come from, you memorize it, you spend 25 years working on it, and then we were shocked that even the places where the teachers were pretty well known, and even where they knew about the Yoga Sutra, they didn't have a thorough understanding of it at all. Nobody. And we were really shocked. And then when we got home from I think it was 3 months tour, and we said, let's start Yoga Studies Institute. And let's teach the Yoga Sutra correctly and thoroughly. And then we went to New York, and we taught it for 4 years. We taught it for 4 years and we did it in different yoga studios because we wanted everyone to share it. And we got everyone to come and study it. And I have to say that the level of understanding of yoga in New York it got very exciting, and it was pretty cool. So that's the story of how we started, Connie, and I wondered, I don't know, maybe you could tell us what you're up to now and where are you going to take this thing?
I think the first thing I really want to say is it's interesting that there's been a kind of a revival of the Yoga Studies Institute. It just kind of died off for a little bit, but what made it revive was the fact that all of us were in lockdown again. So we were all, it was the time of COVID, you know, we couldn't go out. Geshe Michael saying, well, Connie, what should we do? You got that thing up and running again, YSI is up and running again. Why don't we just do the Yoga Sutra? Wow. We'll train some speakers. And so it's very cool that the same impetus that brought you to the Yoga Sutra, the need to move, first of all, was the asana part of it was the first thing. And then for us, it was actually training speakers.
Wow.
And that was your idea.
I don't remember, but okay. Yeah.
And it took up most of our time, it felt like, through last March, April, May, June, July. But at the same time, there was such an interest in this that people came who wanted to start teaching asana. So that was one of the first things we did when we revived it, was aside from doing these classes with you, Geshe Michael, we started the yoga asana part of it. And every day we had these great teachers who would just from home, you know, just with their little iPhone, whatever they had, they would try to.
I took a lot of those classes.
They were
good classes. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So that was the start of it. And we attracted so many bright young people. I mean, I think even before you wanted us to do the Yoga Sutra, we had this wonderful lady named Lydia Gallagher who came and she was like, I really want to study this. Which was so cool. She's still with us, and she's a real driver. Then there was Earl Burney, who, because of Earl was very motivated to actually do what you did in your 3 years.
He did a 3-year retreat. You did a 3-year retreat.
Yeah, but silent retreat. But cool. That was cool, but it wasn't. That wasn't my focus, but it was Earl's focus. He loved the Yoga Sutra, and he spent a lot of his time in 3-year retreat, doing what you did, studying the Yoga Sutra, memorizing it. So then Earl was really excited to join. We had Paolo come on board from Mexico, a whole group of people down in Mexico loving this Yoga Sutra, and so a team just gradually started to come together with a young man named Bob Serino, who is now our executive director. He's got more.
What's his story?
Oh, Bob's story is, his whole story was yoga was okay. It was, but he wasn't so interested in the movement of the physical asana. He wanted to move his body, but he was more interested in weights and things like that. Yeah. But then he read one of your books.
Oh, I see.
It wasn't How Yoga Works. It wasn't that one. It was an older one. It was, anyway, it was a heart yoga, a text on heart yoga. And it made so much sense to him that he was like, oh, I got to find this guy.
Oh, that's cute.
So it's very cute. And Bob's an amazing, he and Earl and Lydia and Pau together have such an amazing feel for creativity. So we've been creating courses based a lot on what you teach that comes from the Yoga Sutra. So we try to use what was already there and take it into modern life. So we have one on financial abundance,
cool.
which is very cool. One on, how to be it's about removing your, what do you want to call it? We don't use the word mental afflictions anymore. I got it stuck in my head.
Negativity.
Negative emotions, Sort of basically how to control your negative emotions, how to get rid of them completely, actually. And then we have another one that is about body image. And just to tease Paula and Lydia, Bob and Earl like to call it yoga for bikini bodies, which it is not. Which it is not. Anyway, it's a lovely family that has grown up around what you generated originally. And so this family now has attracted another huge community around them. And they're people of all ages interested in yoga. And they're not just the physical practices, because some are, people are getting on in years. I'm 65, but I still like to. I know I need to move my body. I know I need. I have a lot more years in me that I'm going to keep going for. So
I like that your physical practice as a lot is based on Niguma. Who's Niguma and what's that all about?
Oh, this one has been so popular. It was probably the first real course that we put out. And it's based upon this beautiful practice that is fabulous for business people.
Wow.
But the depth of that practice, I can't plug it enough for people. I know we're in this wonderful place where often DCI principles are taught. So I always like to tell people that if they study Lady Naguma Yoga, they've got another layer to make their seeds ripen faster. That it's a beautiful secret that you've hidden within DCI. It's there in every single one of the DCI levels, and people come and they do it, and they have a lot of fun when you come and do it with them. But nobody really gets what they can do with that practice until they take YSI's Lady Naguma course.
I think what's cool about Lady Naguma is, we have the Yoga Sutra from about 2,000 years ago. And today, in fact, we covered the verse in the second chapter. There's only one verse about physical yoga, about the physical yoga exercise, asana. There's only one verse in there. So that's not really, the Yoga Sutra doesn't teach the yoga that yoga centers do. They don't teach it. So then there's a later book called Hatha Yoga Pradipika, written by Swatmarama, exactly 500 years ago, okay? And there's a tradition in ancient India that there were not a lot of female gurus or teachers in ancient India. But there's this very unusual woman named Niguma 1,000 years ago who taught a very beautiful system of yoga, and it has been passed on since then for 1,000 years. So you can say that the oldest yoga tradition we have, which is still complete in all its forms, especially the text, is by a woman. It was created by a woman 1,000 years ago, and that's really the physical foundation of your guys' training.
It's true. I think one of the things that was so exciting for us too is that you took a text and figured out how to make it really good for people who were in business, how to make it a safe practice. And I know that there were 5 goals of Lady Naguma's. We've only done the first one, which we talked about today in the Yoga Sutra.
You have a place to go.
Yeah, we have some places to go. And one of the next levels is actually about trying to work with your negative emotions, trying to fix that. Which is a whole different level aside from the 5 goals.
So she has really 2 parts to her yoga system. One is something that you could use for normal success in your life, relationships, business, physical health. But then the second part of her ancient system, which was written down by Taranatha about 500, 600 years ago, is about emotions. And tell us about that. I mean, it's working with certain...
It's working with the winds. So with Lady Naguma's first series, we worked on the channels, basically straightening those out and getting the prana to flow. Because as we know, Lung Sem Jukpa Jigpa, the mind and prana flow together. Where the mind goes, the prana goes. Or where the prana goes, the mind goes. So, but this next system is really more about the winds. So it's using the Lung Sem Jukpa Jikpa and the channels, but it's also trying to focus on the winds in the body. And when the winds are way out of control, certain winds are out of control. For certain winds are out of control if you're feeling really tight and what do you call that? Not wanting to, not feeling generous.
Yeah.
Certain winds are out of control when you're really angry, and certain winds are out of control when you're jealous. So the next one up works with those winds, and it's a bit more of a yin practice.
So she has specific. If I have a problem, I tend to get angry, or if I have a problem, I tend to get jealous of people, or I have a problem of overeating, for example. And then 1,000 years ago, she pinpointed which parts of your body you have to move, and that will help you overcome these problems.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It is very
So you asked about where YSI is going.
Yeah.
We are such a creative team, and we are trying to our whole thing is about community, but where we'd like our community to spread is really into the business community, into the corporate community. And already that's happening in certain parts of the world with people who are in HR departments and things like that. Mostly that's in China. And with we have what we call people who are distributors. And so we have a great team of distributors in China, one under, Jasmine Yao and Lisa Lee and Tina Tong.
I read in The Economist that the Communist Party of China, the branch offices, are teaching yoga now. That's something amazing.
It really is amazing. It's a beautiful practice, and just to see how they use it, how they actually have changed their whole lives and change problems so quickly. I mean, they're just no longer problems. Things are just, their lives are all coming together so beautifully over there, just seeing what's going on. Whatever they want, they're just creating it using principles that have, come from the Yoga Sutra, principles that come from Lady Naguma Yoga, and it's changing it at lightning speeds.
Thank you. So I want to just thank you for taking over YSI in recent years and really guiding it and making it strong and spreading it throughout the world. And we hope that everyone will be happy to contribute to this Castle Rock Fund, which is like an endowment that for future generations, they'll always have some basic support from this endowment idea for their staff salaries, for the rent of their offices. These are just things that we have to spend. We don't have a choice. And if we can create an endowment which pays for those costs into the future or helps with those costs, then it'd be a great contribution for future generations. And they're keeping it alive, a yoga tradition which was about 1,000 years old. And I hope for the next 1,000 years, we'll have the Castle Rock Fund.
I do too, Geshe. Thank you for that. I know YSI has a lot of needs. And, making films and videos and things like that, we need that place.
Thank you guys for helping.
Yeah.
Bye.